so glad to be back. So, hi, I'm Sarah. If you've not been here before, and welcome back. If you have been, it's been a while since I've posted on here. I'm really excited to be back. And for the first video of 2025, I wanted to share a project with you and kind of let you know what to expect from this year, because I do have quite a few things planned. So the project I want to share with you is that this year I've decided to do a book blanket. So I've seen people do the temperature blankets and they seem so cool. I love the idea of it, but they look so big by the end. I wasn't sure where I would use a blanket that big at. So I've been reading a lot more the last couple of years, and so I decided to do a book blanket. So I made my plan is to make a granny square that coordinates with the cover of the book, and then they would all be outlined in white, and then I would join it with white at the end of the year. So my reading goal for 2024 was 75 books, and I met the goal. So I went ahead and just made my goal for this year 75 books also. So the other kind of rules I gave myself, because I didn't want to have to go buy like 5 new skeins of yarn every time I read a book. And so if there are multiple covers of a book, I am allowing myself to pick the cover I like most, or the cover that I have yarn that goes with it, even if it's not the cover that I read. And I'm choosing 4 colors, 1, 2, 3, 4 colors for each cover, and then they all have the white outline. So the other rule I gave myself when I started this project was that I had to weave the ends in on the square I started before I could start a new square, which has been hard because I just get so excited I want to do them all, but I leave weaving ends in and then it's bad. So that was a rule I gave myself. So 4 colors for every book, and I have to weave the ends in before I can start a new square. That was my rules. And so yeah, for this video, I just wanted to go over the books I read in January and share the granny squares that I made with you. The next video that comes after this will be a tutorial for how to make this granny square. So if you want to make one also, we can make it together. I'm planning to just do a recap at the end of every month so I can share what I read and the squares I made, and then maybe we can put it all together at the end. So that's really exciting. I have a lot of other tutorials planned. I have released several patterns since I've posted a YouTube video last. So some book cover patterns, crochet book cover patterns that use worsted weight acrylic yarn for the stretch. So I have a lot of those on my Etsy shop. There are more to come. I'll be sharing some free patterns here on YouTube. And yeah, I'm just really, really excited for this year to get back into it and to reconnect with all of you, because I have missed this a lot. So without any further intro, let's go ahead and get into the books. I did do a reread of Pride and Prejudice. One of the goals I have for reading this year is that I want to do a reread of a book I love each month. I want to read more classics, and I want to try and read at least one nonfiction book a month. So like a memoir or short stories or something like that, which those could be fiction, but I read a lot of cozy mystery and contemporary romance last year, and that is kind of my safe space. I love them, but I did want to try and step out of my comfort zone a little bit more this year, so I'm trying to read different things. That's kind of how I'm planning it out. But the first thing I did was reread Pride and Prejudice. This book makes me swoon. I get so swoony. I actually had not read any Jane Austen books until last year. This was the first Jane Austen book I read it towards the end of the year last year, and then the first thing I did this year was reread it, and I've been watching the movie over and over and over again. So, Pride and Prejudice, I did go ahead and use this cover, and this is the square I made that coordinates with it. So, book number 1. So, the next books that I read, I do not have physical copies of. I use Libby a lot because I like to read on my Kindle. So I use Libby a lot, which if you don't know, Libby is an app where you can put in your library card number and you can get e-reader books and audiobooks from your library. So I utilize that quite a bit. I read these next 4 books using Libby, and that was the Wallflower series by Lisa Kleypas. So that was a series of historical romances about a group of friends, and each book follows a different girl and her kind of love story and the time period. I'd never read historical romance before, and so that was for the first one I was supposed to read for a book club, and then I read the whole series. I do think that there is a novella, a Christmas novella afterwards that I did not read, but the 4 core books I read, and I really, really enjoyed them. I definitely could see myself reading more historical romance this year. They were really fun, and I like a book with yearning. Like I will read books that are just smutty, but I need the yearning. I need it. So I really enjoyed those books. They were really fun. And these are the squares I made to go with them. So the first one, the second one, the third, and the 4th. So that was for the whole series. I really liked the colors. This one especially is one that I wouldn't have put together. Like a lot of these really, I mean, I wouldn't put these colors together myself, but because they coordinated with the book covers, they were put together, and I really like how different that is for me. So overall, I would give that series like a 4-star series. Not every book was like 4 or 5 stars, but overall, as a series, I would recommend it. I did like it. For Pride and Prejudice, 5 stars. Kind of goes without saying. It was great. Loved it. So the next thing I read was another reread, actually. So I reread The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. This is one of my favorite books. I've reread it several times. I actually have a few copies of it. And I bought this copy specifically so that I could annotate it. I've never annotated a copy before. I have like the very first copy I owned, and it also has the deckled edges, which I love. I know that that's a hot take, but I love deckled edges. And so it was the very first copy I ever had, and I didn't want to write in it. So then I have also a vintage copy that it's not a first edition, but it's like the book club edition that was printed in the 70s. So I didn't want to write in it, obviously, either. So yeah, I bought this one secondhand specifically so that I could annotate it. So that was really a good experience to just analyze more of the text and highlight different things that I like and wanted to reference at some point. So basically how I annotated this particular book was I did not have different colored tabs that follow themes. I just picked a single color tab. I did a highlighter, I underlined, and I have post-it notes. I have tried to do the different colored tabbing system in other copies or other books that I've annotated. And sometimes I am thinking so much about what color and and all this that I forget to really enjoy the story itself. So I do think there's a time and place for that. It was just not for this time. I also like the idea of the next time I reread this book, I can use a different color tab and a different color highlighter and each time I reread it, I can see the different things that stick out to me based on like what year and what tab and what highlighter I use. So I think that'll be kind of cool, almost like an ongoing journal within the book. So I think that's neat. 5 stars. I made the square to kind of model after the very notable cover of the shoes. It's like blue, different blues, and has a pink title. So I'll put the picture up, but that's what the square looks like for the bell jar. So the next book that I read, I listened to as an audiobook. It was my nonfiction read of January, and it was The Home of My Mother by Shari Franke. I think that's how it goes, The Home of My Mother, or In the Home of My Mother by Shari Franke. It was Shari telling her personal story of growing up in the home of Ruby Franke. She was the YouTube family vlogger that is now in prison for child abuse. And she had a lot of really interesting things to say just about the culture that of that lifestyle that she grew up in. And she did speak from her personal perspective and didn't give details about her siblings, which I appreciated. So I won't be rating memoir books like that because she's just telling her experience. I don't feel right giving like a star rating based on her personal life story. So I won't be giving a rating, but I would recommend that book. And this is the square that I have that goes along with that. So it was a lot of beige, and then she has, I think the writing is in green, and she has like denim on. So yeah, this is the square I made to go along with that book. I just realized I haven't made a square yet. I'm missing a square. So I'll go ahead and talk about this next one, and then when I film the tutorial on how to make this square, I'll make it for the last book. So the next book I read was The Secret History by Donna Tartt. I have heard so many people talk about this book, right? Like it's a very famous book. I have never read any dark academia books. Like I said, I read a lot of like contemporary romance. I wasn't sure how I would feel about this book, but I absolutely loved it. It's another book that I like immediately want to go back and reread. It just felt so full and really sucked me in. And I've heard some people say that like there's a little bit of a back half drag in the book because an event happens and then it's just like the aftermath of the event. But I still loved following the aftermath. Like I was not bored when I was reading it. But basically this is about a group of friends in college. There is murder mystery. There is obsession. There is atmosphere. I didn't identify with any of the characters, but I just loved reading the perspective of like there's just something in this book. There's something in here. There's magic in here. And I can't wait to go back through and reread it. It's another one that I'm like, I want different copies of it. And she also has another book, The Goldfinch. I can't wait to read it. Actually, this prompted me to put a lot of things on my TBR list because I loved it so much, and I know there's so many other people that love it. So I was able to go through like TikTok and Instagram to see, you know, people recommend, if they loved this, the other types of books that they recommend. So I'm really excited to kind of explore that different genre this year. And this was the square I made to go with this book. So a lot of beige, and then this is like a little red outline. So that was the square I made to go with this book. So the last book that I have for January, I don't have a square for. And I don't know why. I thought I had one. And now watch, I probably do, and I've forgotten that I made it, and it's like in my yarn bag or something. But I'll have to make one for it anyway. So this is Perfume by Patrick Suskind, which I'm sure I mispronounced. A German author. This book, when I finished it, I was like, what did I just read? It was like that kind of a reaction after it was over. It did take me a while to get through it. Like I had to take breaks from it. Just because I needed to break it up with other things, because it was such an odd experience. Reading this book was an odd experience. The story was really interesting, and it's funny because initially when I finished it, I was like, what in the world? And then I have continued to like go back and think about parts of this book. Like it has come back up. It's not something that I read and then immediately it flew out of my brain. Like I have thought about it multiple times since completing it. But basically, this book is about this gentleman that has an extraordinary sense of smell, and he becomes obsessed with distilling down specific smells, and it also he does become a murderer within the book. It says Perfume, the story of a murderer, so that is not like a spoiler, but he just becomes very obsessed with smell and creating a specific smell and the chaos that kind of ensues on his quest to make that specific smell. I would give this book 4 stars. It wasn't 5 stars for me. I'm sure it is for some other people, but for me, this was a 4-star read. It was definitely a whole story. There was plot, there was atmosphere. When I was in it, I was in it. But it just didn't give me the 5-star feeling. So, but that was the last book I read. And like I said, I will need to make a granny square for this one. I can't believe I don't have one. So yeah, that's what I read in January. Those are the squares that I made. So let me go through them again. Okay, so there was The Secret History, In My Mother's Home, the Wallflower. Oh no, this was the Bell Jar, and then the Wallflower series. 3, 4, and Pride and Prejudice. So yeah, my next video will be a little tutorial on how to make the granny square if you want to do the same thing. I think it would be really fun to like see if you make one too. And yeah, I can't wait to get going for 2025. If there's something specific you want to see, let me know. I am planning to go to a few markets this year, so there will be market prep videos. And yeah, I'm so glad to be back, and I'm glad that you stopped by. I appreciate that you're here, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!